I watch Game of Thrones, and as I do this video, I'm on season 6 episode, going into episode 4, and watching Game of Thrones lately has been extremely frustrating, and I'm sure there are people out there who agree with me who are in that camp. Season 5, I thought was terrible. I thought the character development was terrible. I thought it moved so slow, and it was boring, very boring in spots, and just no character development, all dialogue, all fluff, and no pop, no substance, nothing happening. Basically, essentially nothing happening. Right? I mean, you still look at it. The point where I'm at, really nothing has happened with Arya. Bran wasn't even in season 5. Um, Jon Snow, a bunch of nothingness happened until late in season 5, and then you knew when he got killed he was going to wake up in the beginning of season 6. You knew the Red Woman was going to save him. I mean, just a lot of nothingness happened. I mean, what's going on with Daenerys? Basically nothing. Every once in a while she gets in trouble and is a damsel in distress, but other than that, not much happening. The dragons are still locked up. I mean, come on. And that's how I feel when I watch the PBC. I was thinking about that. It's just a lot of nothing, a lot of filler, a lot of filler fights. And you can go on PBC's on their website and look at every single fight in the history of the PBC since March, since it launched in March of 2015. And you can look at all the fights. It's all there, and you can actually watch all the fights on the website. Every fight that they've done. And if you look at it, it started with promise, much like Game of Thrones. I loved the first 3.5 seasons of Game of Thrones up until late fourth season. Started with so much promise, very good show, and then it flattened. And with the PBC, it started off the first 2 months or so with a lot of promise. Back on network TV, and people get this confused. People think that since it's on network TV, boxing's on network TV, all of a sudden boxing is seeing this resurgence. It's not the case. This is basically an infomercial. He's paying. Al Heyman is paying to get on TV, on network TV. This isn't like the UFC where the networks are paying millions and millions and millions of dollars to have the UFC on their network, or like college football where networks are paying billions of dollars to have college football, the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball. It's not the case with boxing. Boxing, Al Heyman is actually paying these guys. It's an infomercial to show boxing, and from what I understand, it's like a 2-year contract, and then something's got to happen after that. And the difference between Game of Thrones and the PBC is Game of Thrones eventually ends. I think they're doing 2 more seasons after season 6, so you don't have to worry about it being sustainable. People who have already invested 5, 6 seasons, like I'm already too far in to give up. So people who have invested all this time don't have to worry about, is this sustainable, because you know eventually it's going to end and you want to see how it ends. But with the PBC, you have to worry about, is this sustainable? Like how is this possible for all these fights with half filled arenas, if that. Guys are making so much money to fight not great competition, getting spoiled. Um, look at Deontay Wilder's fight against Areola. The ratings weren't that good, and it's a heavyweight title fight, if you want to call it that, on network TV. And these fights aren't doing great ratings. And you're like, okay, if they're paying all this money to get on TV, how is this sustainable? How is this sustainable? But my big concern is nothing, just to go back to the Game of Thrones thing, nothing is happening here. I mean, Keith Thurman has had one tough fight in the 2 years, so hopefully something's developing with him. There's no, just like in Game of Thrones, there's no character development. There's no fighter development here. So you're watching this and you're like, okay, what's the end game? What's the end game with Danny Garcia? If he's going to turn down $4 million to fight Manny Pacquiao, to fight probably Andre Berto for half that money, what are we getting at here? What's the end game? Where's the fighter development? Who in this is trying to be great? Name some fighters in the PBC who are daring to be great. I mean, maybe you could say Deontay Wilder, he wanted to fight Povetkin and go over there and fight him. Um, the whole drug testing thing happened. I'm not up to date on that fiasco, but the fight didn't happen. But there aren't too many fighters who are going and putting their neck out there and going in the fire and trying to be great. And if you don't have any fighter development, I don't see where the future's at. Besides your Thurman versus Porters and I don't know, early on you had a Garcia versus Peterson. Besides fights like that in between these fillers that are few and far between, not much is happening here. Just a bunch of filling, not much substance, no fighter development, and it's just frustrating to watch. And that's my problem with the PBC. One of the many problems I have with the PBC, and I think it's overproduced. I think they're trying to take the personalities out of these fighters. That's another problem I have with it. It's very how do you say this? Um, it just seems very programmed. Yeah, it seems like they're taking the personality. Like look at Adrian Broner. He can't walk in with 25 guys as he's singing his rap song because they got classical music playing as he's walking to the ring by himself. They're just taking stuff away from it, and I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff wrong with the PBC, and they need to step up their game quick because you got to worry about sustainability here, and you got to worry about fighter development. Man, step up your game. Game of Thrones will eventually end. Will the PBC as well?